You think power moves freely. It doesn't. Power forms around resistance. Pressure shapes it. Constraint redirects it. Friction determines where control concentrates. You think power expands without limitation. It doesn't. Power adapts around resistance. This is ACHRONIC, a long-form documentary series about power, geography, and time. Not events, not heroes, not chronology, structures that outlast empires. ACHRONIC power appears expansive, expanding, projecting, advancing, but power rarely moves in straight lines, because movement is never unrestricted. Geography interrupts it. Pressure redirects it. Resistance reshapes it. This is why power continuously reorganizes around constraint, not despite resistance. Because of it. Resistance does not simply block movement. It concentrates it. The more movement encounters friction, the more it begins compressing around paths capable of sustaining continuity under pressure. This is how power forms. Not in open space, in constrained space, where movement becomes directional, where coordination becomes necessary, where pressure forces alignment. Power is shaped by what resists it, because resistance determines where movement slows, where it redirects, where it compresses, and where continuity begins accumulating into structure. This is why dominant systems repeatedly emerge around constrained corridors. Not because those locations are inherently powerful, because resistance continuously concentrates movement through them, and wherever movement concentrates long enough, control eventually forms around it. At first, this concentration appears strategic, deliberate, designed, controlled, but underneath it, the structure is already adapting to external pressure. Because power does not organize reality freely, it reorganizes itself around the limits imposed on movement. Mountains redirect it. Distance slows it. Fragmentation breaks continuity. Constraint reorganizes movement into narrower paths. Even stability shapes it. Because stable systems compress movement into predictable channels, and predictable channels attract coordination. Over time, power becomes increasingly dependent on the structures created by accumulated resistance. Not because resistance disappeared, because resistance permanently reorganized movement underneath it. This is why power often appears strongest where movement becomes most constrained. Because constrained movement creates dependency, and sustained dependency becomes control. This is where perception fails, because people often interpret concentration as dominance. But concentration usually begins as adaptation. Power compresses because unrestricted movement cannot remain coherent for long. Open movement disperses. Constrained movement accumulates. And accumulated movement creates pressure. Over time, that pressure stabilizes into systems. Infrastructure forms around it. Coordination forms around it. Institutions form around it. But underneath every stable structure, constraint remains active. Because power never escapes resistance, it continuously reorganizes around it. This is why large systems become increasingly rigid over time. Not because rigidity was planned, because accumulated pressure continuously narrows movement into fewer viable paths. At that stage, the structure still appears expansive, but internally its movement has already become highly directional, highly compressed, highly dependent, highly constrained. And once enough dependency accumulates, the system begins losing flexibility. Because concentrated systems cannot easily redirect movement anymore. Too much coordination depends on continuity through existing paths. Too much pressure depends on maintaining alignment. This creates the hidden rigidity inside dominant systems. The structure appears powerful, but internally its movement has already become difficult to reorganize, because power shaped itself around resistance for too long, and eventually the structure becomes dependent on the very constraints that originally concentrated it. This is why dominant systems often struggle adapting to changing movement underneath them. Not because movement stopped, because movement reorganized somewhere else. Pressure shifted, flow shifted, coordination shifted, and once movement reorganizes, power slowly loses coherence around old constraints. Not suddenly, structurally, because power was never independent from resistance. Resistance shaped it from the beginning. Pressure shaped it. Constraint redirected it. Friction concentrated it. And wherever resistance reorganizes movement next, power will begin forming around it again.